Hi, welcome to the Photography Academy, and today we're talking about a session, and we're looking at a real session with Charlotte here. Charlotte is a model that we use from time to time. First found Charlotte as a dancer, and that's really her main occupation, is as a dancer. And like all kind of actors, singers and dancers, they basically need to get updated portfolios every couple of years to actually add into their kind of Insta presence, as well as web portfolio, and obviously to go out to their agents as well. So we're going to be using Charlotte's session as an example for you of what we need to actually kind of look at when we're photographing the likes of models. But it could actually refer to pretty much anything, and today is technically a headshot session with some additions into it. So when we're talking about the do's and don'ts of photographing the subject anyway, remember we've got these kind of main points that I need you to concentrate on. So as a rule of thumb, all of these apply to pretty much every session that we do. Always thin the body, that's the number one kind of thing. Specifically with headshots as well, we're also photographing the face before we start the whole shoot, and we're seeing which is the best side of theirs, and then obviously once we decide on which is their best side, then that's going to be the dominant side of the face that is going to be visible to camera during the shoot. Obviously then the lighting will have to change around that. So we're always looking to thin the body. We're watching the hands don't dominate, but she is a hand model as well, so in this shoot you are going to be seeing some hands being used very close to the face as well. Always show as much neck as you can and avoid kind of any double chin angles, specifically when you're shooting from a lower angle up, or you're dropping the subject's chin too low. If they need to shoot their kind of looking down more, make sure they're pushing the shoulders back so they can elongate that neck. Avoid the kind of the crossing of the arms unless it's being used for a specific reason or storytelling within the image. Posture should never really be straight or slouchy. Remember to change the subject's angle as often as you can to be complementary to the body. If they're in a certain kind of location and you can't move their body, then obviously you need to make sure you're going to change your angle of the camera. Remember, turning the torso, no straight arm will always thin the body anyway. Pay attention to the arms and making the space between the kind of the body and the actual arm itself. Don't be afraid to use limbs like arms and legs and even the body positioning to create visual lines and angles. Clothing, because you've taken the time to discuss with the client in advance what they're going to be bringing in, they're probably going to double or triple what you've asked for anyway. You need to go through that with them to make sure that you're only going to shoot the absolutely necessary to get the maximum variety, otherwise you'll be there all day just in changes of clothes. When we're using hands, we need to make sure that the fingers are always being used in a gentle way and they have a grace to them like a dancer would. So it doesn't matter if it's a grumpy old boy who's being photographed and he's a mechanic, we're still paying attention to how they use the kind of the ruggedness. As a rule of thumb though, when we're photographing women or somebody with more a feminine kind of touch, we need to make sure the fingers are basically touching but not touching, especially when they're getting near towards the face. So don't press them into the face. If they're going to touch, make sure they're all bent and so on. Avoid the elbows too high in the photograph, especially when they kind of become in front of the face. In other words, they're raising them up higher and kind of you're shooting straight towards them, unless for dynamic effect, of course. And then, of course, in studio or on location, use the surrounding to actually add more. It could be a wall, it could be a fence, it could be a pair of steps in the high street, whatever it would be. And then, of course, remember it's your job to break all of those rules then and move on to the next stint. Just a couple of the do's and then a few don'ts to do with the session. One thing that we need to do the whole time is keep communication going. So I'm talking to the subject the whole time, giving them ideas on what to do with limbs, body position, shape in expression. And by doing that, they're in continual kind of almost fluidity, and they know exactly what I'm trying to achieve, giving them very, very succinct kind of requests or commands. but I also need to make sure I'm adding the positive feedback into the shoot itself. You know, only an idiot would say that's not very good, let's do something else. You know, you just go, okay, let's try a few new ideas. So just that little phraseology will be a kind of a model thinking she's doing something wrong, compared to actually you in your head knowing it's not going to plan and you need to kind of make a bit of a change. As I mentioned, direction at all times, and I'll always refer to their limbs, so left arm, left hand, left leg, as that, and not as I see it as far as the camera's concerned. And I'll pretty much always pose from behind camera. I'm never close to the subject, so I can kind of remote control pose as we go through. As far as the posing elements, when you get to a fluidity, then you kind of more kind of flow, kind of going through from one thing to another, than actually kind of being very, very strict in the pose. But initially, especially if you've got somebody who's very nervous or somebody who's never been in front of the camera at all and they've got no idea how to move from one thing to another, which, let's face it, is most of the clients, we basically need to actually pose them to begin with. And last but not least in the do's is make sure you've got a shoot sheet and you've got ideas from the client. So the likes of a Pinterest board, encourage them to create their ideas before the shoot and share that board with you, or actually just print out or copy some images actually onto your phone and use those as a guide, especially for the times where you go a little bit kind of mind numb. As far as the don'ts, I think these are more important than the do's. In fact, you should never, ever, ever touch a model, no matter what. There's no reason at all for you to actually leave your camera position and go and move a hair or whatever it be. If you are a male photographer, I'd always encourage you to be using a female assistant, whether it's a makeup artist, another photographer, wherever it be, to move things. You know, once you've built a relationship up, then of course, you know, a slight little kind of adjustment to the hairing is good, is okay, but still, before you even think about doing it, you're getting that kind of permission. Is it okay if I just move that little bit of hair? If they can't do it themselves, it's only then that you're going to do it. Number 2 is never, ever, ever put a model at risk. So never get them to do anything that you wouldn't do yourself. In other words, don't stand them on a kind of a pedestal, a step stool, a fencing, wherever, even in the middle of a road. Don't do that unless you're willing to actually stand in there and take the first hit and things, really. Make sure you're having a good relationship during the shoot. So I know at times that we get a little bit fixated on what we're doing, but you need to actually put the camera down, stop looking on the back of the camera, rely on your technical ability. So in other words, if you're going to rely on automatic settings on the camera and automatic flash, there's going to be times where you are checking more the technical than anything else. But if you set things up to begin with, like a Polaroid would have done years ago, make sure you've kind of killed it first, then you just shoot the hell out of it. Last 2 things then, watch your terminology. Make sure it's not derogatory in any way, whether it's for a man or a woman, it doesn't matter, and kids of course. And don't assume that the client or the model knows what the hell you're on about, because you've got it in your head and they've got no way to actually know what is going on in your little mind. Right, let's get into the shoot and we'll look at it. So these are the kind of images that we're going to be looking at during the course of the shoot today. Now, I haven't just got the best of the best. So in other words, if I just double click through a minute, these are the finished images that she chose. Okay, so these are her images that she bought from us. But we're actually going to see the kind of the full shoot as such, really. So just these are the unfinished images. So these are basically out of camera raw. Even though they're the developed JPEG here, you can see the stands are over to the right hand side. There's no softening or retouching done here. This is as camera shot. Okay, so as long as you're aware that what we're going to be seeing is basically what the client was kind of being photographed in actually on the day, and things, really get a good idea. So a couple of things to bring attention to is we're really using either a white wall, black seamless paper, could be white seamless paper as well, but I've got a white wall. We're also using these poly boards, and basically they're just on small studio kind of floor stands. There are times they won't stand vertical. You can see there's an assistant off on both sides just holding the poly board vertical for me for a few of the shots. But then basically on the flip side, the reverse side of the poly board, one side's painted white and one side's painted black. So you can kind of use these as fake boards, and you can see above her here there's the kind of the seamless paper, and you can also see where the main light source is coming from above. Okay, so let's look at the shoot from the beginning and how it all kind of come together. So remembering that this is majority of the shoot is to do with headshots for modeling and for being a dancer, and I need to bring character out as well as actually bring a beauty out as well and things. So once more, these are the kind of the raw file that haven't been retouched in any way. They've just been processed through Bridge and Camera Raw to get to either the black and white or the color stage, but with no kind of fixing going on. So, simple image here. If we kind of just look into the eyes, you can see it's a one light shoot. In this case, it's coming in above camera position, but quite high. And there is a reflector panel, as you can see, just running in the bottom here. So that is lifting the detail below the chin. Where possible, I prefer to use the reflector rather than a secondary flash below, even though if I was doing that it would be set around about 1.5 to 2 stops less. The classic kind of headshot photography for me is one light high and basically the reflector below, and then I can actually start to actually move through. So the first shot is torso to camera. She has a great physique, great look, fantastic neck, very strong jawline. I know which side of the face is better for her, so you're going to see her turning towards the right side more, but during the shoot you will also see her kind of being able to allow both sides of the face to be photographed. So this is the kind of the classic image for her, and because the light is coming in from above, theoretically there is no direction to the light except coming down. So whereas we usually put the light in either to the right or the left, because she's turning to the right here with the torso, traditionally the light would have then come in from the left. But as I said, because it's coming from above, basically we don't need to actually worry about that. And once more now you can see that the angle of the reflector has slightly been changed to increase the amount of light hitting the face now, where it was just actually in the test shot to begin with. So just to give you an idea of the settings, of course, we're at 125th of a second, ISO 100, and it's f3.5. We're going to work anywhere from f4 to f4.5 as a rule. There are times I move down to 2.8. The reason I use f4 as my working headshot, I'm always focusing in on the eye itself, which means then I get a sharp tip of the nose and I get a sharpness to the front of the ear. So those are allowing me for pin sharp eyes, and then obviously just a pin sharp nose as well, and lips. So just kind of looking at the left and the right, you can still see we're still testing to see which is her good side and the best side, check things haven't changed. And then we're just running through. Now remember, she is a hand model as well, so specifically for nails. So I do need to include the hands in some of the images, but not make them too dominant. She is a dancer, so it means that the hands are veined, and I need to make sure that they're understanding that we're kind of got them in photograph, but we're not kind of bringing too much dominance in. What we're seeing is a difference between a white wall and a black paper, or the black of the flat or the white of the flat. So remember, this is a white wall. I can tell it's about 3 to 4 feet away from her, which means that the wall is going grey, so we don't have to actually worry about that at all. So again, just flicking through those, then bringing some of the hands into the shoot as well. You can see here why we're using the side of the hands. This is the better side of the hand rather than actually the back of the hand or the inner part of the hand. We always want to use the side. So then actually kind of kicking off again, just back now into the black background, running through the quick flow, then bringing the hands back in. So now we're using the kind of the flip of the board to kind of add in the black background. Once more now, we're still on 3.5, so we're working here without any trouble. Then allowing a little bit more space around the images, allowing some of her character to bring in. She has a huge mouth, huge lips. I have to show that expression. She is an amazing character. It's just not that kind of model with one look. She has got so many things going for her, as well as being a dancer, of course. But you can see here, by controlling the elbows towards each other, so in other words, instead of kind of pushing the boobs together a little bit, we got this fantastic triangularity of the actual body beginning to appear. So very much like an Audrey Hepburn kind of look, but more muscular in their look and the feel. Because that light is still coming from above, of course, remember I need to raise that chin where possible, otherwise it's going to be far too dark. If she drops the chin, it starts to actually, you can start to see, we all have these kind of double chins. It doesn't matter how skinny, how beautiful we are in life. If we drop a chin too far and there's not enough light to actually push up and hide it, basically we're going to see that. So again, raising that chin up. So we've nailed the headshots in a very, very short time. Now we can step back out with the same lighting in place. We can start to actually shoot the 3/4 length. So again, you can see now, in fact, we've changed from a kind of a narrow softbox above to now an umbrella, and you can start to see how the light from the umbrella is spreading. It's giving more definition in the actual shadow area, but it's also lighting some of the black paper as well. So again, just working through, still got that reflector below. If we start to actually look in towards the face now more, we start to see there is a separation light coming in now. So a light coming in from the 10 o'clock position. Start to looking at the eye. We can see now, in fact, the softbox has changed to a beauty dish, and that's why we've got this little bit more of a contrastier kind of look within the whole face itself. So when we start to actually look around, you can see that the beauty dish is creating this harsher shadow below compared to an umbrella or a softbox. But again, giving a good light across the whole kind of scene. So here again, just adding in that kind of look and feel. The black leggings and the kind of the polar neck that she's got really brings her Audrey Hepburn kind of fashion in. Using these vertical flats now as a part of the image allows these kind of fake walls to actually come into place. Losing those walls now and actually having a huge amount of light coming back towards us, just as me playing around at this point and getting ready to actually move through. So we're creating a very, very white hot spot as far as the background is concerned, but then I'm using a focus spot to actually bring the attention to the different parts of the face. So again, specifically bringing the attention through to elements that you can now see why in the portfolio these would be very, very dynamic and make somebody look at her a little bit more than perhaps another model, because she has other things going for her. So still playing around with hands and shape. Remember, she's a hand model as well. So again, we've got all these kind of little things. Just cut some card with some shapes, have a bit of fun. Again, the backlight lighting coming through with just a reflector, kind of bouncing the light onto her. And then pushing through. Now these are just the white card behind her. So if you don't even have a white flat, just a simple piece of white big card, A2 or A1, will give us a good flat surface. Bringing in some of the split separation light behind to add that little bit of a difference, and then obviously replacing that with a black card. So all we're doing here is we're swapping the black card the white card side to a black card side by just rotating that around. We have lots of colored card within the studio that we can kind of bring in. Main part of the shoot is now done, and we can start to actually use some of the kind of the colored gels, looking more at the more dancer kind of element, bring some interest into her portfolio, but really we've kind of nailed it. So mixing lights, direct light on to her colored gel, 2 complementary gels using the color wheel, and then using the likes of a focusable spot onto the face to bring white flesh. The difference is in here, of course, you can see that I'm using 125th of a second on these. Now we're dropping the shutter speed down to an 1/8, and then obviously allowing the model to move and before the flash fires and things. So we've got basically the model is moving, and the fire of the flash is freezing the different parts of the photograph. Obviously, if I was shooting with speedlight photography, I would use secondary curtain. Why? Because then it would actually seize the detail at the end of the exposure rather than studio flash here, which is seizing it at the beginning. The difference being is that you can see how the kind of the shaping is blurring through the actual physicality of the photograph itself. So some kind of images here, just a little bit of fun kind of coming towards the end, a little bit more difference, a little bit more variety, good for Instagram and social media sharing as well and things. So again, now just adding that little bit of colored gel, specifically no looking towards camera, finishing off with a few images where we're lighting up the face as well, looking a little bit more like stage lighting going through, some out of focus shapes on the background to kind of add that added blur, but also kind of a focusy kind of light, but it's just something put in the way of a sharp light. Same here, just slats cut out of card, held in front of a light source to create the dynamic shape going on. Just a swapping over of the gels, and then basically finally finishing off with just some simple kind of ballet images, a little bit more kind of fashion, kind of a little bit more dance and things, but more for social media than anything else. So you can see there how you can create quite a distinctive variety of images by planning it ahead. Obviously it helps if you've got a great looking client like Charlotte is, but that is a session from the beginning to end. But remember those do's and don'ts as well. Take care, see you on the next one. Bye bye.